Chair of the Commission on School Accreditation. This regularly scheduled meeting of the Commission on School Accreditation is being held today, Tuesday, September 17th, 2019, at 10 a.m. in the fourth floor boardroom, Central High School Building, 359 Northwest Street, Jackson, Mississippi, in accordance with Mississippi Code annotated 25415. An audio recording is being made of this meeting, and minutes of this meeting will be recorded, and this meeting is also being live streamed. As I call the names of the commission members, please state the location of your presence for this meeting. Kelly Barfield,
Fourth floor boardroom.
Tom Brewer, Kenny Bush, Sarah Foster, Roy Gill,
Present, fourth floor boardroom.
Brian Harvey, Michael Lindsay, Dr. Valencia Martin,
Present, fourth floor boardroom.
John Misklis,
Present, fourth floor boardroom.
Anthony Montgomery, Eddie Prather,
Present, fourth floor boardroom, Jackson.
Brad Stevens, Ingrid Williams, and Heather Westerfield, fourth floor boardroom. A quorum of the commission is present for the purpose of conducting this meeting. This meeting is called to order at 11:08 a.m. Well, 10:08, sorry. At this time, Mr. Prather, would you mind leading us in the invocation?
Sure, be glad to. Heavenly Father, dear Lord God, we just thank you for another day. Lord, we just thank you for the blessing you bestowed upon us, Lord, and we just pray, Lord, as this commission gathered together to discuss business for the students and the citizens of this state, that you guide us in our decision, Lord, and in our discussion. Lord, that it be made for the best interest of our children and our state as a whole. Bless those that's in attendance and bless those that's on the phone. Lord, be with us this day and keep us. We ever praise you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
All right, item 2, commission members, you've received a copy of the agenda. At this time, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda. Please identify yourself for the record. By Ms. Foster. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Misklis. Is there any discussion? Okay, members that are present, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Members on the phone, all in favor? Any opposed? The motion carries. Item 3, approval of the minutes of the August 1st, 2019 meeting of the Commission on School Accreditation. At this time, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the August 1st minutes. Motion by Ms. Barfield.
Second, Roy Gill.
Second by Mr. Gill. Is there any discussion? Members present, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Members on the phone, all in favor? Any opposed? The motion carries. Item 4, approval of the minutes of the August 19th, 2019 special called meeting of the Commission on School Accreditation. I'll entertain a motion for approval of the August 19th minutes. Motion by Mr. Brewer. Second by Mr. Prather. Is there any discussion? Members on the phone, members present, sorry, all in favor? Any opposed? Members on the phone, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 5, approval of the minutes of the August 29th, 2019 special called meeting of the Commission on School Accreditation. I will entertain a motion for approval of the August 29th minutes. Motion by Mr. Brewer. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Foster. Is there any discussion? Members present, all in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Members on the phone, all in favor? Any oppose? Motion carries. All right, item 6, we have an information item, a report of the internal review of the preliminary accountability results in accordance with Accreditation Policy 3.1.3 of the Mississippi Public School Accountability Standards. Okay.
Good morning. So the accountability, the accountability results, preliminary results were sent out to schools and districts to review and to submit any concerns or questions regarding the preliminary data. And in accordance with Policy 3.1.3, the Internal Review Committee met to review requests from the districts on September the 5th, 2019. There were 31 districts that submitted a request for internal review. Initial requests were reviewed based on the data that was provided, the data that's in MSIS and established business rules and policies of the agency. Those requests for review that were unable to be resolved from the initial review were submitted to the Internal Review Committee. The Internal Review Committee reviewed each of those issues in detail and voted to either to grant or deny the requests from the districts. There were 4 districts that requested a review of college and career readiness information, 10 that requested data related to the acceleration component, 5 related to the English language progress component, 11 regarding assessment data, 2 requests regarding the grad rate that was applied to the accountability calculation, 2 participation rate requests, and 3 full academic year requests. The Internal Review Committee did not approve any changes to data related to preliminary accountability results. Letters were mailed on September the 9th, 2019 to district superintendents notifying them of the committee's decisions. Are there any questions regarding that? Yes, some of the requests that we receive could be something to the effect that a district may think that a student's not included in the acceleration component based on the data they receive. We'll go and look in the data and find that the student is included so we can verify that there's not a problem with the data there. So a lot of those issues are resolved. In fact, the majority of the issues are resolved through that process. Other issues are a question of how policies applied. For example, we had 2 districts that had some reconfiguration during the school year and wanted us to calculate a different graduation rate for use in accountability calculations, but how we treat accountability data in regards to reorganizations or consolidation of districts is addressed in the business rules. So we have precedent for that type of procedure. And yes, the Internal Review Committee is made up of individuals from various program offices across the agency, and then one external chairman, and that's Dr. Christy Hovenitz with the Center for Excellence. And they just review all those requests in relation to established policies and business rules.
Questions on this item? The item 7, reports and district school performance classifications for the school year 2018-2019.
With me just a second, let me get this PowerPoint. Okay. So before I begin the presentation on the results of the 2019 accountability system, I just wanted to address one concern that we became aware of recently in regards to the presentation of data for our schools that have, our high schools that have grade configurations below ninth grade. As you probably all will recall, we had a new business rule applied this year that provided for an adjustment to their composite score in use of applying the performance classification for these schools. The business rule is clear that it states that the adjustment, and this is Business Rule 1.7.2, adjustment provided for in this section shall only apply in the assignment of the performance classification and shall not apply to any federally required school identification measures. And what that means is that this adjusted composite score is calculated solely for the use of assigning the performance classification. The reason why we do that is because we have two scales that we're using to grade these schools. One is for elementary and middle schools, one is for high schools. And these schools don't specifically fit in either of those buckets. So we're having to do an adjusted score that puts, that considers both of those grading scales. That being said, we have to be consistent with how we report data for schools across the state. All schools have to be calculated in a similar manner, and their scores, their performance scores have to be reported in a similar manner. So while there is an adjusted composite score calculated for these schools, it does not tie into the calculations in the components for student performance. So we have had a request on the media file that we add a column to show the adjusted score that we use to assign the letter grades for these schools, in addition to their actual composite score that can be derived from their components calculations. So we don't see any problem in providing additional information in the media files, although we want to make sure that there's full understanding that the actual composite score that's calculated from their component scores is going to be the official composite score. We reported in the report card that way and used in federal and state accountability calculations. The only difference is that we want to, if there's additional information that's being requested, we want to provide that, and we can provide an additional column in the media file that consists of the adjusted score. So the initial file that you received did not have the adjusted score used to assign the letter grade for these schools. And you'll see that under your tab that says NT, or non-traditional 1,000 point schools. Now we've added a column to the right of the total points that will say adjusted score, and we're going to release that
to the media as well as the state board. So right at 10 o'clock, I think Dr. Malone sent all commission members an email that contains a new file for these non-traditional 1,000-point schools that does have that column. So the information in your e-binder and what you received yesterday does not show both the total score and then the adjusted score, but what you have in your email that you received this morning does. And so following the meeting, we'll revise the media file and communicate with our communications team and release a media file and then update it for the board as well.
Okay, so I'm pleased to present to you the results of the 2019 accountability system. We've seen some great improvement this year, and I think there's room to celebrate here. As you know, the accountability system is very integral into the vision and mission of the State Board of Education and aligns to all strategic plan goals for the State Board of Education. We wanted to point out in particular in Goal 6, which is every school and district rated C or higher, that we have a percent of districts and schools rated C or higher that's increased from 2018 to 19, and you'll see that the districts rated C or higher this year are 69.7% and schools 73.5%. This is a state aggregate summary of accountability data for 2018 and 2019. So You can see that we have seen increases in the majority of these components, with slight dip in reading growth and reading low 25 growth. You also see a slight dip in science proficiency that can be attributable to the new standards and new assessment that we have in science. And for new for this year in this list is the English learner progress row on the bottom that shows the percent of students that are meeting their progress goals, annual progress goals for English language obtainment. So some key findings, again, just summary review of the data here. Of the 145 districts, 140 districts and 5 charter schools, there are 31 that earned an A. That's 21.4%. Of the 641 700-point schools, 169 earned an A. And of the 236 1,000-point schools, 27 earned an A. On the lower end of the scale, we have 19 districts that earned an F, 58 700-point schools that earned an F, and 19 1,000-point schools that earned an F. Okay, so we also calculated how many increased a letter grade from last year. And of the 145 districts, 46 increased a letter grade. Of the 641 700-point schools, 178 increased a letter grade. And of the 236 1,000-point schools, 80 increased a letter grade. We also did a calculation to look at if we take proficiency and growth together and calculate which districts and schools showed an overall increase in proficiency and growth, how many we had there. So we had, of the 145 districts, we had 84 that increased in overall proficiency and growth points, 316 of the 700-point schools, and 122 of the 1,000-point schools. Okay, so in more detail of our results, we'll look at districts first. So this kind of gives us some trend data on district grade assignments over the past few years. You'll see 2019 in the far right column highlighted in yellow, 31 A districts, 35 B districts, 35 C districts, 23 D districts, 19 F districts. We have 2 charter schools in this year with the districts that do not yet have performance data because they're new. So that's our 2 NAs there. All right, these are the accountability indicators used for districts that you're probably all very well familiar with. The top 10 districts in the state this year: Petal School District at number 1, Ocean Springs, Clinton, Oxford, Madison County Enterprise School District, Biloxi Public School District, Union County School District, Lamar County School District, and Rankin County School District. Bottom 10 districts. So at the bottom end of the total points column, LaFleur County, West Tallahatchie, East Tallahatchie, Noxubee County, North Bolivar, Amite County, Holmes Consolidated, Wilkinson County, West Bolivar, and Yazoo City Municipal. Okay, for our schools, again, we have a similar table here showing trends over the past few years in grade assignments. 196 schools, and this is combining 1,000-point schools and 700-point schools in these counts. 196 schools earned an A, 280 earned a B, 169 earned a C, 153 earned a D, 77 earned an F, and then again, those are those 2 charter schools down there at the bottom in the NA category. These are the accountability indicators for 700-point schools. So these are schools without a grade 12. This is elementary and middle schools. Any school that does not receive a science or does not test science, we equate the score out of a possible 600 points for that school onto the 700-point school and report their composite score based on the 700-point composite. Top 10 700-point schools in the state: Enterprise Elementary, Beach Elementary, Clinton Park Elementary, Northside Elementary School, Bayou View Elementary, Pineville Elementary, Bramlett Elementary, Mansdale Elementary, Madison Station Elementary, and Seminary Elementary School. And at the bottom end of the calculation, there's Jefferson County Upper Elementary, West Bolivar Districts Middle School, Powell Middle School, Coldwater Elementary School, Cordoza Middle School, Oakhurst Intermediate Academy, Como Primary, West Kemper Elementary, Elsie Hatcher Elementary, and Oak Forest Elementary, and A.W. Watson Lower Elementary. These are the accountability indicators for 1,000-point schools. Again, schools with grade 12. These are the top 10 1,000-point schools: Ocean Springs High School, Hernando High School, West Harrison High School, Enterprise High School, Center Hill High School, Oak Grove High School, Pass Christian High School, Biloxi High School, Van Cleve High School, and Bay High School. At the lower end of the scores, Forest Hill High School, Lanier High School, Northside High School, Greenville High School, Holmes County Central High School, Ray Brooks School, Wingfield High School, West Bolivar High School, McAdams Attendance Center, Jim Hill High School. All right, so do we have any questions regarding those accountability results?
Or is there any commonality as compared to those in Ohio? What are some commonalities that the MDE have seen, and what kind of plan will be used to address those? Are there any resources available for those schools?
Dr. Oakley, would you like to address like the school improvement efforts?
So we do identify schools for school improvement under federal accountability requirements. Our lowest performing 5% schools are in comprehensive support and improvement. They're designated with that label, so to speak. Those schools receive some face-to-face and virtual coaching, some priority access to professional development and support around instruction. And then they also, our F schools, once designated, and CSI schools will come in for an interview with department staff looking specifically at how they are addressing the deficit areas. So they've got to lay out a plan. Here's where I'm struggling. If it's English proficiency, if it's growth, what are the areas where I'm struggling, and then how am I addressing that with either local funds, title funds, or school improvement funds that are available. We also identified, starting under ESSA, schools that had subgroup performance that was below what it should be. We had a number of schools last year, and we identify annually for additional target support or target support and improvement schools. But we look at subgroup performance. We look specifically by race. We look by high poverty versus low poverty, look by special education designation or not, and they end up with a school improvement label there to make sure they're addressing the needs of that particular subgroup of students. So you may have an A or a B school at the top end of the performance band, but that is not doing well with special education mathematics, for instance, that would get identified for school improvement and would have to address the needs of that subgroup of students.
Dr. Oakley, and it might be changed years ago on some no federal, those schools that's made definitely the F school for 2-3 consecutive years, some other mechanisms kicked in place. Is that still there?
Under ESSA, there is an additional mechanism after that third year where the ATSI schools roll into comprehensive support, and there's some additional steps that can take place then. We're in just entering now our second year under this new designation under the new law, though.
And the subgroup gap analysis that Dr. Oakley just currently working on that data, and that will be presented to the state board in October, as well as the districts. I mean, we'll do the detailed analysis, and that information will be provided to each district. They know how they compare with their subgroup performance.
clarification. I just want to make sure I have this correct. On these non-traditional schools, the grade was based on the adjusted score, but for reporting purposes, so they will all be equivalent, it's reported based on the numerical doing the combined school as one.
That's correct.
Right, I mean, we could have reported both columns to avoid the confusion, but we're happy to, I mean, that's been brought to our attention, so we're happy to correct that, and we'll get those new files out following the meeting.
Just clears up the question I had when, and I knew there was something there, but I understand now.
Questions? All right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Burrow, Dr. Manford. You know, a lot of hard work went into all that. So we will move on then to item 8. Approval of the district school performance classifications for the 2019-2020 school year, based on the school year 2018-2019, with the stipulation the information continue to be embargoed to the public until 2 o'clock p.m., September 17th, 2019. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Present, all in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Members on the phone, all in favor? Any opposed? The motion carries. All right, item 9, other business. Dr. Malone, you got anything?
October
I was about to say, looking at,
October the 3rd in 2 weeks.
We have do we know kind of what's going to be on the agenda for the 3rd as of now, or are we? That's right. Sure. That's why that's been, okay. Okay. Thank you.
In addition to the proposed revised policies, is that possibly a good time to discuss? I'm curious the process for updating the 2019 accountability standards to 2020, you know, what that process entails. You know, just.
So the Accountability Task Force has, the selections have not been finalized, and they have not had the first meeting. We look for that to be late October, early November, or for that. We also have a task force that's working which would be a number of revisions to the accountability documents, that's working to review all of the statutes, policies, student assessment handbook, accommodations manual, all the test security procedures, to make some recommendations for revisions to come forth to that group. So that work is already underway. Dr. Matt Dillon is chairing that work with a number of practitioners, and we'll be expanding that group in the near future as we get more detailed in the work and the revisions of those documents. So all of that work, revisions, recommendations will come before the commission as well. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good.
second. Second by Mr. Prather. Any discussion? All right, members present, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Members on the phone, all in favor? Yep. Any opposed? All right, we stand adjourned at 10:37.